What's up and welcome back to the Kevin's Coast to Coast Gambling Show. This is week 9 of the NFL season, hosted by just myself, Nick Risner. David St. Martin's out this week. He'll be back next week, but he did deliver his locks and his primetime picks, so we'll get to that. Sticking with tradition, I'm going to be going through every single game on the slate this week, giving my thoughts on the spread and who's going to win these games, and a quick little reason why. It'll be pretty short because it's just me. And then I'll go through the locks. I'll go through the primetime picks. I'll go through our records. Actually, we can just start with our records right now. So last week, very successful week for 3 of the 4 of us. David St. Martin fell short on his SoCal special. He picked the Chargers and the Rams. The Chargers covered. They actually would have even without the tease, but the Dolphins blew the Rams out by 11, thus blowing up his bet. So he is now 1-3 in his locks of the week. I actually hit on my MMA pick. I picked Bryce Mitchell to win. He did. So I'm now 2-2, which if you're actually betting on these fights, he'd be up right now because I think the first pick, I forget who it was, Brandon Royval maybe, he was a 2-1 underdog. So if you actually put $100 on all 4 of these fight picks, you'd be up. But that's neither here nor there. MMA is a tough one to pick, and I'm proud of my 2-2 record. And then we had both Kevins hitting last week. Kevin Quinn, from the depths of despair, I think he was 0-3 to start the season. He's now rattled off 4 in a row. He's 4-3 after hitting last week on his Eagles lock. He thought the Eagles -9 was a lock. He definitely was right. My Cowboys are terrible. Hatch, East Coast Kevin, he picked the Steelers and Raiders. With the tease, he was getting points, but they both won outright, both won convincingly. So he is now 5-2 on his lock. So if you guys are listening to the show and you're betting with the Kevins, you're making a lot of money right now. So that's something to keep an eye on. And then to quickly run through the primetime picks from last week, we had Cowboys versus Eagles, Sunday Night Football, and then the Bucks versus the Giants. Monday Night Football, both huge spreads. I think, I know, all 3 of us, me, David St. Martin, and Kevin Quinn went with the Eagles and the Bucks, and Kevin Hatch went with the Cowboys and the Giants. We all went 1-1. Obviously, the Giants covered. Close game. It was a 2-point game. So the Giants covered. Eagles did what they're supposed to do and blew the Cowboys out. So me, Kevin Hatch, David St. Martin all hit on our Sunday night pick, and then Hatch, who lost Sunday night, hit on his Monday night pick. So 1-1 for all of us last week in the primetime picks. Now let's get to it. Let's start going through this slate here. Let's run through every single game this weekend, starting with the Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings. Not a particularly great game. 3-4 Lions versus the 2-5 Vikings. Now the Lions are getting 4 points. A little bit surprising. I mean, I understand the Vikings are coming off a win against the Packers, but I don't know, man. If anything, that puts them in a spot to have a letdown game. I think the Detroit Lions are still scrappy. Obviously, neither one of these teams are very good, but I think the Lions getting points, I almost think they're going to win outright. So the fact that they're getting 4 points, that's, pretty easy bet for me. I'm going with the Lions on this one. Moving right along, we've got the Ravens versus the Colts, a much better game. Both teams 5-2. Both, I actually have the odds at even. No one's getting any points in this game. I think David St. Martin actually got it at Ravens +1, but it's a pick'em game. Well, no one really knows who's going to win this one, and it seems like a crazy thing to say if you had told me at the beginning of the year that the Baltimore Ravens, with Lamar Jackson and this high-powered offense and all this hype around them, that they were going to be split even odds in Week 9 with the Colts. That's crazy to me. I think that says a lot about what the Colts are doing right now. I think it also says a lot about the holes in the Ravens, defense. Can Lamar Jackson beat, win the big game and beat these teams with winning records? So far, that hasn't really been the case. It's one of these teams that beats up on bad teams and loses to good teams. I think, I can't even believe I'm going to do this. I think I'm going, no, I can't do the Colts. I have to go with the Ravens. I'm picking the Ravens. Again, no points being awarded on either side of this game, but I'm going with the Ravens because I just can't imagine the Colts getting a win over the Ravens in this game, especially at dead even odds. It should be noted, by the way, I went back and checked. I had a spectacularly bad pick'em week. So bad week for David St. Martin to be out because I think I was, my first win, I lost all the games in the 1 o'clock slate except for Steelers versus Ravens, which I pushed on. Otherwise, I went 0-7 in the 1 o'clock games. The 4 o'clock games, I lost the first one, Chargers versus Broncos. I won the next 2. I picked the Bears to cover against the Saints. They did. I picked the Seahawks -3 against 49ers. They won that as well, so I was up to 2-8. Then I won the Sunday night game 3-8. So I started to claw back a little bit before losing the Monday night game. Bucks -10.5 against the Giants, lost that game. So I went 3-9, which is almost impressive in a way because I was honestly trying to make the best picks I could. So to have it be skewed, like you should be around 500. It's kind of the point of the lines. The fact that I went 3-9 is almost spectacularly bad. So if you want to fade me during these picks, probably a smart idea. But let's move right on with them. Panthers at Chiefs. Panthers 3-5. Chiefs 7-1. The Chiefs are understandably heavy favorites. They're giving up 10.5 points on this one. The Panthers, they're getting McCaffrey back, so that switches things up a little bit. 10.5 points is a lot of points to lay. I'm leaning Panthers. I'm leaning Panthers to keep it close. I think the Chiefs will probably win, but that spark of having McCaffrey back in the lineup, I think gives them enough to cover that spread. 10.5 points, again, way too big of a spread in my opinion. Moving on, the Bears at the Titans. Pretty good game. The Bears are confusing as hell to me, to be honest, but they're 5-3 still. Titans 5-2. The Titans, I think look great, but there's random games where they disappear. Last week against the Bengals, for example. But I don't know. I mean, both these teams are coming off losses. Both these teams are very much in the playoff hunt. They're both, potential teams that could string together a couple moves at the right time and make an actual push for the Super Bowl. Unlike, whoever comes out of the NFC East is going to flop immediately. These teams both have a chance. So there's a lot on the line here. It's a big game stakes-wise. I got to go with the Titans. I think the Titans very uncharacteristically lost to the Bengals. I think they're going to bounce back. I think the Bears at 5-3 are still overachieving a little bit. I don't really trust Nick Foles in any sort of consistency. I think that he can win games here and there. He can go on these hot streaks, but I can't imagine him continuing to do that for an entire season. He never really has. So I'm going with the Titans on this one. -6.5 is a lot. I think that's why the line is where it is, but I just feel like the Bears are going to flop and the Titans are going to really pour it on this week. So I'm going Titans. We got Broncos at Falcons. Broncos 3-4. Falcons 2-6. Really stupid, boring game. I don't even want to spend too much time on it. Shout out to Kevin Quinn. I'll go with the Falcons -4. I think the Broncos stink. I think the Falcons are still better than 2-6, even though they keep monumentally collapsing week in, week out. I'm going with the Falcons -4. Texans versus Jaguars. The Jaguars are getting 7. Horrible game. Probably worst game on the slate. I take that back. The next one's even worse. But Texans 1-6, Jaguars 1-6. Really, really bad game. I guess I'll go Jags just because they're getting the 7 points. I think both these teams are terrible. I think it'll probably be a close game no matter who wins. So I'll go Jags +7. This is the game I was talking about. Giants versus Skins. Washington football team. Horrible game. 1-7, 2-5. As a Cowboys fan, the only silver lining of this game is that one of these teams has to win. At this point, I want to tank, and I've never said that as a Cowboys fan. But what are your options? At this point, we don't have a chance at anything. Might as well get some draft equity. I'm not saying necessarily draft a quarterback. I'm not saying tank for Trevor Lawrence. If we do get in a position where we can get him, maybe it makes sense to trade away those picks and get a bunch of picks in return and build something, because we're clearly in a rebuilding phase of our franchise again. I gotta go Giants. I think Giants are better than 1-7. I think they looked scrappy against the Bucs last week. I think that's motivation. I think if they won, it'd be a letdown game, but the fact that they were close and just came up short, I feel like that leads you to outperforming, especially a rivalry game in Washington. I think the Giants win this, and I think they'll improve to 2-7. Tremendous 2-7. The Skins will fall to 2-6. Seahawks versus the Bills. Great game, probably the game of the week. Seahawks 6-1, Bills 6-2, both leading their respective divisions, both leading. Well, this year it's pretty competitive divisions. I mean, I guess the Dolphins are the only ones really pushing the Bills right now, but the Patriots are still the Patriots. It's not an easy win when you face Bill Belichick, no matter what the circumstances are. So the Bills are in a tough division. Seahawks are in the toughest division in football. Huge game. I actually think the Bills pull this off. They're getting 3 points. I think the Seahawks are really good, but it's in Buffalo. You have the weather potentially, although I think it's actually a pretty nice weekend in the Northeast. But I don't know. I just feel like the Bills will get the job done. They'll increase their foothold on the AFC East. I'm going Bills. That wraps it up for the 1 o'clock slate. 3 games in the 4 o'clock slot. Raiders versus Chargers. No line there. The Raiders are 4-3. Chargers 2-5. I'm surprised there's no line. I think the Raiders are legit. Again, Chargers flashy. I don't know, man. Raiders. Give me Raiders. Give me Raiders with the 0 spread. Dolphins versus Cardinals. Dolphins 4-3. Cardinals 5-2. Cardinals are 4.5 point favorites. I got to go Cardinals. I think that the Dolphins are a mess right now. I know they're trying to make the transition to Tua. I know they won last week. I don't know. I don't see them doing it 2 weeks in a row, so I'm going with the Cardinals, even despite the 4.5 point spread there. Steelers versus Cowboys. Cowboys 14.5 point underdogs. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this game either. I think the Steelers cover. I think they're able to cover that in ridiculous spread of 14.5 because I think the Cowboys have quit on this team. We have another new quarterback. Wouldn't expect him to do much. I mean, Ben DiNucci has been trash. I don't even, who is it? Cooper Rush or who's the, I can't remember the other guy's name. Garrett something? Garrett Gilbert. I just had to look that up, by the way. So it seems like Garrett Gilbert's going to get their start. If he's terrible, which he probably will be, then Cooper Rush might come in, who is also terrible. So it's going to be an absolute shit show in Dallas. Steelers improved to 8-0. Then in the primetime games, we have the Saints versus the Bucks. Bucks minus 4.5 favorites. And the Monday night game, we have Pats versus Jets plus 8.5 for the Jets. The Pats, of course, favorites in that game. So let's start with East Coast Kevin. He's got the Bucks and the Pats. West Coast Kevin taking the Saints and the Pats. I've got the Saints and the Pats as well, and David St. Martin's got the Bucks and the Pats. So we're all on the Pats. We all think the Pats are going to cover that spread pretty easily against an absolutely abysmal Jets team. Split 2-2, 2 on the Saints, 2 on the Bucks. And getting into the lock now, Kevin Hatch, East Coast Kev. He's got a 2-team tease with the Ravens and the Bears. So that gives the Ravens 6 points to work with. Again, that was even prior to that. And the Bears are actually 6.5-point underdogs, make that 12.5 points. Of course, he has to hit on both of those. For Kevin Quinn, West Coast Kev, he's got the Steelers minus 14. Now, I said my team minus 14.5. He actually bought the 0.5. He bought the hook to make it minus 120. So, screwing up his odds a little bit for that extra half point. Interesting strategy there. I'm curious why he thought that was so important, but regardless, there you have it. Now, I know this is late notice, but if you're listening to this, I'm going with Claudia Gadelha in tonight's UFC card. Pretty even odds. The girl she's fighting has been on a crazy streak of late, but I think Claudia Gadelha is one of those people that, you really have to beat her to get to that next level, to get to that championship level. Claudia's right there. She has the wrestling ability. She's good enough on her feet to survive, and she's going against a striker, but I think she'll either out-wrestle her to the point where she actually gets a submission or finishes by ground and pound, or do enough in a 3-round fight to at least get the nod on the judges' scorecard. So go with Claudia Gadelha for my MMA pick. That is my lock. And finally, David St. Martin. I'll give him this. He said Ravens +1, so we're assuming that he got him at +1. I have it as even odds. So if you're listening to this, then you probably don't have that 1 point to work with. But either way, he's basically taking the Ravens to win that game. That is his lock of the week. And I guess we'll see how everyone does. That'll do it. Thank you guys for listening. Rate, review, subscribe. Sorry for the late release on this one. And I hope you enjoy, tonight's fights and tomorrow's football games. All right. Peace, guys.